Hello and welcome back to the Collegiate Call of Duty League. We are jumping into map number 4 between Humber College and LVC, or Lebanon Valley. The first map, not terribly close, as it was a 250 to 125. Lebanon able to take the search and destroy in response at a 6-5. And now we move past the domination, which Humber, as you would anticipate, able to win the respawn 161 to 125. We're going to be going to the Petro for the hard point. And this is a map where, again, it's hard to find a negative in anything that Humber does. The one thing I will say, this is a map that they're not very well rehearsed on in their regular season, only playing it once. Lebanon Valley, though, has played it 3 times. All of those came against playoff teams, one of which was actually versus Humber. And the last time these two teams met here, Brody, it was a 121 to 250 favoring Humber.
Well, that is a bit of a score difference. I think it's fair to say. That's for sure. Of course, I don't think St. Petro is actually a map that many of these teams, or either of these two teams, I should say, have actually played at all. If anything, I think Humber played once, and LVC have played it twice, and that's really about it. Let's get right into the team rosters though, between Humber and LVC, to see what the rosters look like on both sides. Of course, Humber, the number 3 seed coming in this tournament, have been touted as one of the best teams throughout the entire bracket. Unfortunately for us, we don't actually have the rosters up right now on screen for you guys, which is kind of unfortunate. That being said, yeah, as I was saying, Humber, of course, being number 3 seed, I haven't actually had any chance at all to look at these two.
None of us have.
Right, it's kind of unfortunate because all the good things that I've been seeing, sort of the top 25, the voting, as it were, for all of these guys across the season, and Humber has consistently been right at the top. There is a reason for that, of course. If you look at their record in their respective group, 17-0. That is, again, it's kind of like you look at the Georgia Southern as one of the only other teams that have that kind of record. And again, now you have a look at it here, you can kind of see why across the map mode combinations, 19-0 in hardpoint, they haven't lost a single map shift. Domination, exactly the same, 17-0. Search and destroy is really, I mean, you can't even call it an Achilles heel. They've lost 2 maps, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't really know what you were going to say about this. Simply put, it's the simple fact that Humber has been dominant. Again, when your average win on hardpoint is by 155 points. Again, let's be fair. There are some softball matchups in the Northeastern Division, but even against other playoff teams, they're 10-0 with a 122-point differential. These guys have been absolutely massive when it comes to their respawn. And for LVC, we take a look at them here pretty quickly. The stat line's obviously not going to be the same here, as you're looking at a 15-6 overall, still a plus 46 differential, ranking 17th in the hardpoint, but they're 6-5 versus other playoff teams at a minus 8-point differential that they've been able to get through so far. So not exactly, again, this is a mismatch on paper. It should be a mismatch in game. I would say, though, it is a touch surprising that Lebanon Valley were able to take a search and destroy away from this Humber esports squad. Again, that's one of the big concerns I have for a team like Purdue and throughout this bracket is, can they find a way to win search and destroy? If Humber's not going to look consistent here and they're just resorting to their respawn, I think teams that are well-practiced, well-rehearsed, and might be ranked a touch lower than them could potentially surprise this team. I still think it's far-fetched considering the roster that we're expecting for Humber, but still, there is an opportunity for teams to take advantage of their search and destroy. But we're beyond that. Let's take a look at St. Petro for our hard point coming up here for our map number 4. This is our first real look at Humber on a live stream. There have been a couple of individuals from their teams that have streamed, but we have not seen them on a main broadcast yet this year. So this is our first real true look to see what they have to offer, at least in this hard point specific.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Humber esports, man. I just can't get over that 155-point differential.
Nuts.
I know you can put an asterisk on it in the way, again, the skill level maybe isn't up to par with some of the other groups that have been here in the CCL, but still, 155 points. That's incredible, man. Yep. You're 100-point clubbing pretty much every single team you're playing. That's seriously incredible. That's so impressive. And I'm so excited to see Humber esports play this game. Right now, I believe as it currently stands, I was going to say it's switched, but it's all good because we have a great producer on hand who is switching it right back. And Humber esports on the left side right now are going to be inside the hard point as it currently stands. Tenacious for LVC, though, trying to make the move forward. And maybe we're about to see just how good Humber are in hard point.
And there is some pressure here for LVC as they actually do spawn backside of the trash alley behind the billiards room. And with that, they will actually pinch up what Humber was hoping was going to be a block of the spawns and retake the hill behind the play. So there is an opportunity here for LVC to find some significant time, not just on the first hard point, but if they can hold the spawns for the second, they can string one into the other. And a couple of kills do turn up, so not bad at all for Lebanon Valley. Just comes down to, do they read where Figure is? And yep, they sure do. And now essentially with only 18 seconds left, LVC will surely concede the scrap time of the first hill in favor of trying to set themselves up for the second. But everyone was so focused on what was coming through the blue square. Nobody tracks down Tunes up top. He's going to try to make a solo play to influence those backsided spawns, and he'll run into a handful of members who just recently spawned up. And with that, LVC will essentially reestablish themselves, not only in the spawns, but also on the initial time of the cafe.
And this rotation does show some promise for LVC Esports. They're winning most of these first gunfights, but you've got to be careful that you don't lose some. Humber Esports could filter their way through, and that's exactly what's going to happen here as they bully their way into the hard point. It's just left up to Tenacious, and not Tenacious enough. As going to get taken down by Crozier there. Tunes actually takes down their teammate in response. And Humber Esports, for their immediate break, have actually been broken right back. LVC, though, aren't able to hold said break for all that long as Figure, Cushpoint, and Tunes combined for 4. LVC bullied out of the hill, and with 25 seconds left, you're not going to see any attempt to get right back into it. It's LVC, smartly, I would add, going for the hazmat building.
But the problem of sending all 5 players on the rotation this early with 20 seconds is Humber's going to read, hey, nobody's here to contest us. Let's go contest the middle of the map. And if you even throw just 1 or 2 members over just to contest that hard point, it forces Humber to essentially sit here and say, all right, they're still hitting. We still have to hold numbers in the back, and they can't really afford to go on the rotation. But fortunately for LVC, the rotation does pan out the way that they were hoping to. A couple of tight moments in there, but the 1v1s do get won by LVC, and they will open up the hazmat with some good initial time and some good pressure over the middle of the map by the Lion statue. Humber now making their way across. The first 20 seconds will fade away, and now it's just down to who can enter in with these second set of gunfights. Humber currently with a couple of wins to get into the hard point itself, but not enough to convincingly win the point itself. And with that, LVC will try to find their way to hold from the backside of the hill as Humber will actually flip the spawns.
We're now going to flip the spawns, as you say. They're going to find their way into the hill and get these last 20 seconds of time. Surely LVC have one more push left in them. Spicy omelette, which is, I guess, a little bit odd. No one ever has a spicy omelette unless they're weird. Not going to be able to do much in those terms as Humber Esports hold on to that scrap type. LVC now going to have the rotation here in hand. Sorry, it's going to be Humber in the rotation in hand. The colours are throwing me off. Okay, it's all on me to be fair. But still, Humber Esports right now in control for the rotation. You have Cushpoint in the mid-map, and again, it will actually mean that LVC surely, as long as Cushpoint wins these couple of gunfights, will take a while before making it into the hill. A lovely sentence is thrown out. The car bomb going to deal with Nuts, and that's going to mean that Cushpoint can turn around and deal with a couple of players facing around Rosie on the vent up top. But that is only going to hold off LVC for a little bit more time here as Humber Esports has been gifted the first 25 seconds. Now, though, a little bit of resistance shown. Tenacious, the first one into the hill, but you can see LV Esports pushing their way through. They're looking pretty good, breaking their way in, and they will look to get the start by taking time.
I mean, everything that we're seeing from LVC, they're playing the map correctly for the most part. Given the situations they find themselves in, they're making the right decisions. It's just the simple fact that currently the reason why we're looking at a 50-point gap in the points is because Humber's just outslaying, as you would anticipate them doing just as such, considering the members that are on the roster. But LVC are playing a relatively clean game of hardpoint so far, keeping them in the mix. Only down 40 points now as we start to head towards the restaurant hill of P5. Nice play from Crozier as he lines up 2. And it's small moments like that that keep LVC in the back foot and are not allowing them to fully capitalize on the setup that they're putting into the mix. Again, you're seeing it on the minimap. They're trying desperately to get over towards the river side of the map to break this restaurant, which is correct. That's the point they need to be making. It's just down to the simple fact that Figure's now on 6 straight. And when you've got an individual like that popping off and keeping you fully breaking, that's an extra 10, 15 seconds that you have to reestablish yourselves up, reset up, and then re-execute. And again, the second time through, LVC find the ability to break on in. The last 20 seconds will surely go their way.
I do like the call from Humber, actually. You know, there's 20 seconds left of time in the hill. They leave it to a couple of players who maybe want to not go for the rotation, instead looking for that scrap time to make it work. And to be fair, luckily for them, they do. Instead, Humber Esports have put the majority of their work into getting the hill, getting the rotation for the next hard point. That is exactly what they've done. Spawns are in their favor, and now we're looking down the barrel of Humber, extending their advantage. Currently, sits around 60 points. That is now reaching 70 and will continue to grow for as long as Humber scope up the time on this hill. But Nuts picks up an important two-piece, looking for some more. Hasn't been dealt with just yet. Still causing all sorts of issues. A Cush point breaks their way in. And that one-on-one engagement is crucial. Nuts is doing bits in the hill. 5-3 now for Nuts. LVC, off the back of a single player, are making their way back in onto the shipping area. They will get the remainder of this time too, you feel. I don't think Humber are dumb enough to rotate here, or to go, sorry, for the hill and not rotate here. Instead, they have the rotation for Cafe, and I think they're quite happy with the advantage they've already brought up.
And again, LVC staying in this game. If they could find one big break here for P2 and turn scrap into initial, it would be great for the effort to try to make this a more even game. Shots back and forth between Crozier and Nuts. It'll turn up in favor of Crozier this time through. LVC desperately trying to flood through the billiards room. It will eventually turn up with at least one member surviving, but not enough for the double that was needed to fully break through the backside. So now LVC, what do? You're spawning towards the river. You need to put yourself in this blue square, which Spicy Almond is currently there, does not track down the player from behind. And while everyone else tries to flood through the hotel, Humber Esports will collapse on this attempt. And once again, the numbers are just going to provide to be a touch too much for LVC as they get broken on this, or not broken, pardon me, they bend but do not break on that attempt from LVC. A good hold from Humber.
Humber Esports now continuing to hold their 50 to 60 point advantage over LVC, and it will continue to grow this last 20 seconds, surely going their way. And the worst bit about the shift. Oh dear, the worst bit about this is the rotational gunfights have gone the way of Humber Esports. LVC still have a chance to break early on though. Will they? That is the question. Toons has some important gunfights to win. Gets the first. Looks for the second. Unfortunately, not going to be able to win. And I said actually that Humber have the rotation. They no longer do. LVC wins some crucial fights. They now have control of the hazmat building. But the next page here, the next setup that they need to pull off is getting control of Humber for the entire 60 seconds. They really cannot slip up to Humber here.
Dunder almost snapped onto Crozier, but again, his individual effort keeps Humber a touch at bay. But as they start to spawn in the middle of the map, now it comes a two-dimensional hit. One from the river, the other coming from the mid-tracks. Dunder deals with one of the two threats. Here comes the second. Dunder gets into the hill. He finds himself another kill, and with that, LVC still inching, clawing their way back in the hazmat building, but Humber Esports eventually get the flood numbers that they need, and they will break from the backside of the hill. Tough gunfight here from Dunder as he eventually wins it, but should be traded out and surely will. 225 and counting, closer to 230 for Humber Esports as LVC are going to be late to get to this rotation to P4 as they have been put right back into the spawn trap behind the third hill.
Well, I suppose the one saving grace here for LVC is the Humber technically aren't on the hill just yet. And now finally they are. They're going to jump in for these last few seconds of time. I don't even know if they have time to make it across the map here, Shift, but it doesn't matter anyway. Humber are cutting the map rather well. You got number 4 and number 2 on your mini-map, covering the pool hall. Just 5 seconds to make it towards the hill. Tunes is covering the doorway. And actually, Tunes not going to get the door right at all, as LVC are going to break their way in. And Shift, just when we thought it was all over, it might not be yet. 2 players still in control of the pool hall for LVC. They are not done here.
No, not at all. It just comes down to, will anyone find Figure in the middle of the map? Because here comes the final pinch, and with that, the break will eventually be there for LVC. But again, this is going to read as a 153 to 250. But simply put, LVC was in this game for a very long amount of time. Flat out, I mean, they did not play this map poorly at all. It just came down to the simple fact that this Humber team is individually just a better squad, and there were a couple of moments in there where you kind of saw that kind of rise as Dunder, he does put up 24, but on the opposite side, when you've got 5 members above 20 kills, this one just simply came down to this fact that Humber's just a stronger team individually. But again, I'm encouraged from seeing that from Lebanon Valley. They played very well, very collected, and you know, people were surprised that Alabama lost to this LVC team yesterday, but now that we're kind of getting a more in-depth look as far as what Lebanon Valley has to offer here in playoffs, I'm relatively encouraged that they took a search and destroy again, actually, mind you, the second time versus a team like Humber, and they were able to keep themselves at least mostly in the game. They're playing the map correctly. It just comes down to losing a couple of key moments, like you mentioned, the transition kills from 2 to 3. when you're losing those rotational kills on a map like Petro, life becomes very difficult. So some inspiring things for LVC, but unfortunately they will drop to the losers bracket. You see the map totals and scores right below. Who will they play is the question. That's match number 29. They will play up against the winner of UT Arlington and Northern Iowa, which is actually the next game we have slotted to watch here on the mainstream. So we'll get at least some kind of a foreshadowing instance of what LVC has to offer for whoever has to come up, whoever does end up coming up top of that UTA and Northern Iowa game.
I don't think you take it that hard, to be honest. If you're Lebanon Valley, you just played
No,
the third
can't.
seed and you didn't even get smacked that badly. 3-1 is not a bad series score. You managed to take the search and destroy, which, albeit, yeah, we're not going to say it's the Achilles heel of Humber, but most certainly is their least perfect game mode. You still take that map. And again, your map score, I mean, you look across the board here, it isn't the best. You lose 250 to 125 in map number 1. You lose 161 to 125 in the domination. And then, of course, as we just saw, around a 100-point difference in the final hard point. Although the respawns aren't the best, you still play well. And again, as you pointed out there, Shift, just a couple of moments go your way and things could look incredibly different. So LVC, I think they're just going to not give themselves a hard time about that loss. Go again in the losers bracket because you can still make a run.
Agreed the case, but for now, we'll send things to a break. When we come back, we'll have the Texas Arlington versus Northern Iowa game for you guys in losers round 1 here on the College COD playoffs. And day number 2, again, this will be our final day of the weekend, but we'll be able to decide who is our top 16 and who is searching for a potential extended run through the top 12 and beyond going into our second set of weekends. Don't go too far. We've got losers round 1 action